What is up, everybody? Check out this really cool animation. If I refresh this, just check that out. So smooth and silky. So if you've ever wondered how to do these types of animations that you see on modern websites, this is the video for you. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to create in HTML and CSS and a little bit of JavaScript with the help of the GreenSock animation platform, or GSAP as it's called. We're going to create this sequence-based animation from scratch. So we'll start with the HTML, the CSS, and then we'll really focus on the JavaScript, which is how we use GSAP in order to create these really nice easing-based animations. All right, so as always, make sure to subscribe and let's get started. Now, wait 1 second. Let's say, for instance, you're really interested in becoming better at HTML and CSS and creating awesome responsive sites. If that's the case, make sure you go to DesignCourse.com/CSS, it's linked here in the top line of the YouTube description, in order to enter your email for when my interactive CSS course releases. Right now, it's not currently available, but whenever you're watching this, it might actually be. So make sure you go there to check that out. Whether it's released or not, enter your email to be notified when it releases later here in 2022. All right, so here is our design that I quickly created here in Figma. And I didn't really prototype the animations I wanted to in here, although you probably could with a little bit of work. But when it comes to Figma and even Adobe XD, you really can't do accurate sequence or stagger-based animations quickly. But anyhow, this is going to be kind of what shows up initially. We're going to have the background kind of come in, and then this text will reveal pretty quickly using clip path. Which you'll see what I mean in a second. It's the CSS property. And then this is the ultimate layout that will come in after kind of like a second sequence animation, where we'll have each of these kind of come up, and this will move up along with revealing this little arrow, which is done by the arrow tool here in Figma. All right, so let's get started. So I already created a folder in my code projects called 22 Motion. Or 2022 Motion rather, and this is just a quick boilerplate HTML. I'm linking up a CSS main.css file, which is all right here. I'm using Sass for this, by the way. And then for the index.html, I have linked up GSAP CDN. So that's the GreenSock animation platform. If you want to know what that code is, just go to type in GSAP3 CDN and click here. And then click the script tag. And that's exactly what this code is right here. All right, so let's just get started with the HTML. Because I want this tutorial to move a little bit more quicker than usual, I am going to just copy and paste certain sections in based on what we need. So the first section that we're gonna need is just the background. All right, so background is gonna be div class BG. I'm not gonna use an image tag for this. I'm going to use the CSS background property, and that gives us a little bit more flexibility in terms of how we structure that layout. Oh, also, if I hit Control B, we do have an assets where I have 4 different pictures, which is the 4 pictures that you saw inside of Figma. So I'm going to make this project available as well, and I'll link these resources. I used unsplash.com for any of these, so you can use any pictures that you want, but just notice the namings of these, or the file names rather. The next section I'm going to paste in is going to be right here. All right. So this section we're start off with a div class of container, and then we have another one embedded in that of div class content, and we're going to use things like just the grid display in order to kind of center stuff up. All this HTML markup right here is in relation to, if I go back to here, this and these 3 elements, and we're kind of embedding them a couple levels deep here with div container content and then the content inner, just so that we can easily position them and get them centered up. We have our SVG again, and if you go to Figma, you right click on that arrow and just copy as SVG. This is all I did right here. I removed the width and height parameters. We're going to control that within CSS alone. All right, and then finally, the final section is going to be, if I copy that off screen, right here. All right, so we have, this is all in relation to this section down here. All right, So all we have is a locations container. We're just going to make that a display of flex just to easily get those in 3 columns. And then there's just 3 copies of this right here. So these 1, that's 2, and this is 3. So all that's happening here, we have div class equals local. It's just an overall container for each one of the cards. We have the card image at the top. We have a wrapper for the information, the type-based information. And then we have the title and then a paragraph. And that's all it is. And that's all the HTML that we need. So let's go over here to our SAS. And I'm also going to copy and paste in some rule sets. Before I do that though, I am going to right click, open with live server. That's the live server extension. You can come over here to an extensions panel of Visual Studio Code and get that installed as well. All right, so that's what it looks like currently. Nothing essentially. So next up here, we're going to take all of our images and just reset the width here to 100% to make them responsive. That'll get rid of any crazy scroll bars. Of course, we see this massive arrow right here, which we can worry about later. We also have our background. All right, so our background is a class, and this is reference to this element right here of BG. So we're setting the height to 100 viewport height, top 0. Background. Oh, you know what? I did initially make this a position absolute element, but I decided not to, and instead make the other elements position absolute, as you'll see in a second. So if I just save this, and this gets our image, we don't quite see it yet, but don't worry. Once we fix up that SVG and everything, we'll get that fixed. In fact, let's just do that now. So our SVG here, we're going to do width of 1 em unit. We'll see if that ends up fixing stuff. Yeah, there we go. We're starting to see some of our our elements, although not much, obviously. So our width, we're going to do 2em auto. That auto makes it centered. Display block, which will make the centered work. And then we're going to hide it initially. And we're going to be doing this for a lot of our different elements to hide them initially. So clip path just allows us to create kind of like a bounding box and either reveal something or hide something. And a real good tool to use for that is if I go to CSS Clippy. So just type that in Google, you'll find this right here. I've used this so many times on this channel. And if we choose trapezoid or whatever, we move this right here, and then we kind of push this up. Now anything, this will hide anything. All right, so that's why you kind of see like what is that? A bridge of some sort. I'm not sure if it's like the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, whatever. But as you can see, anything that has this right down here applied, you're not going to see. And then we're going to reveal that with GSAP in a little bit later. So that's what that code is right here. So I just copied and pasted that in. All right, then next up, let's save that. And let's take our container. So for our container, we're going to go ahead and remember, if we go back here, this is the overall container for this content right here. So I think what I'll do is just paste those in real quickly. So we're setting the container to position absolute so that it can sit on top of the background. So top 0, height 100 viewport height, width 100%, display grid, and place content center. What that will do is take this element of div class content, center that vertically and horizontally in the viewport. So let's save that, see if anything's changed yet. All right, so now we can initially see that image that we want, and we can also see this up here. So of course we're gonna have to adjust a couple things there as well. All right, so next up, we're gonna paste in this bit of information. So we have div class, we have our class of content, color white, that's gonna change everything. Just center align those 2 bits of text as well. We have just some styling on the H1 element, making the font size large, adjusting white space with the margin, font weight normal, paragraph as well. And then we also have something called text reveal. And text reveal is a class that we're going to be applying to certain HTML elements in which we want to do a stagger animation with GSAP. You'll see how that works in a second, but you can see I did the clip path of polygon. It's the same property right here, by the way. So it's going to hide this text, that headline and the subheadline initially. And then I had to apply transition all and transform why you'll see kind of why here once we get to the GSAP JavaScript portion. But now, if we show this, it's all hidden now because we decided to hide it with that clip path property. So coming out here next, we have just our locations container. So this is a bit more CSS. So locations container, we're positioning, absoluting that, and putting it at the bottom. So essentially, if we go back to our reference, which is not right there, we can see it's all positioned at the bottom of the viewport anyhow. We also have display flex, which will convert those three child elements, which are the cards, from rows stacking on top of each other to columns stacking next to each other. So then we have our info, which is a part of the card HTML markup. We change the background to white, padding, position, nothing crazy here. And then we have the titles, and I'm kind of just doing a negative margin top just to get the title of each card up into here. And then also some positioning to get this in the right position as well for the paragraph for margin bottom. And span display block, and that's pretty much it. There's only two more rule sets that we have here. Let's see here. So image, or let's talk about local real quickly. Let's do a search for that real fast. So if I do local, div class local. Okay, so it's basically the container for each card. So we're doing a clip path as well to hide that. And also we're hiding it by default as well with opacity 0, because we're also going to have it reveal in and also fade in. And then transform, translate Y, that moves it down 2 M units as well. So, and then finally our images, which I think I had the image tag up here anyways, but yeah, so if I do that, let's just remove this. There we go. Object fit covers, and it'll just make sure that those images kind of scale proportionally and stay within the defined height of that element. So if we look at this now, this is all we have. All right, so obviously we have some work to do with getting it displayed up correctly. So let us go ahead and focus now on the actual JavaScript portion. So we're just going to do the JavaScript inline down here, script tag. All right, we'll save that. All right, so the first thing we have to do is create an instance of the GSAP timeline. So we're going to say let TL for timeline equals gsap.timeline. And right here, we can put in some defaults or override the default values like the easings and stuff. So we're going to do that in a second. But first, let's create the first sequence or stepping animation from this. So we do TL dot, and then we have to choose a method either of from or to. So the way this works is whatever values that you specify in either one, like if you're using from or to, it's going to take it from these values, if you use from, the values that you specify and the configuration options for this method, and it'll transition or animate your elements from these positions to whatever it is by default, or it works in reverse. You could say whatever the default values are for this given element that we want to animate, we can transition it to these elements. So it works in reverse, and we're going to use both. So first one is going to be from, and we want to make that background kind of just come in and animate, kind of just grow from a small size to like kind of just consuming the screen to where it is initially. So what we want is we want to use from to achieve that, because right now currently it's where we want it to be to, if that makes sense. So what we'll do is put in BG, and that's the class for this element right here. And this of course holds this whole photograph right here. So what we do is in the first argument we put in the selector, whichever element we want to apply this stuff to, and then we open this up here into some options. So then we can put in, we want to scale it from, let's say 60%, all right, or 0.6. All right, and then we can also put in a duration, although you don't have to. I believe the default duration is going to be like 1 second. So, but I want this to be a little bit longer. So we're going to say duration 2 for 2 seconds. We can also make it fade in, opacity 0. So this is also going to fade in and also scale up. And for now, let's just leave it like that and just save it. And we should see some animation. All right, there we go. So looks pretty cool. I don't think there's any issues here. But if you really want to go next level, because there's no easings that are applied to this that are outside of the default just linear easing, we can do this. And what we could do is, if we want this type of easing to apply to all of our sequence animations, all of our from or to methods, we can just put it up here in the default configuration options. So we put defaults, and then we open up another curly brackets. We say easings, and we're going to say expo ease out. Now that sounds scary and confusing. However, if you go back to your browser and we type in GSAP 3 easings, you're going to see this page right here. Now this page allows you to kind of see how these easings will affect the animation. So like elastic, you can make this thing bounce in and out that graphic if you wanted to, which I think would be too crazy. But you can see expo right here. So essentially this little arc that it shows, which is a visual representation of that easings, this will start off real fast and then just kind of go in real slow in terms of the duration, which is 2 seconds. And then like if I play that again, so it starts off real fast and then you can see how it goes real slow. I like that look for a lot of animations. So we're just going to apply that by default. Now if we go back, is that applying? Is that applying? I'm not sure if that's actually applying to that. Well, let's see. Because the way you could do this is you could also just take this and we could say ease, and then we do the expo dot ease out. Let's see if that changes it up. I thought those would be applying initially. So that must have been like a browser cache issue, because now if I refresh this, look how the animation's so much more smooth and better looking. All right, so next up, what if we also wanted to apply like a very slight delay onto this to prevent it from just immediately animating? So let's just put a delay property here of 0.2. So now if I go back and refresh, you can see it just a very slight fraction of a second. Just pause. So I kind of like that. The tiny details count and they matter. All right. So next up, let's do the part that's going to make the text reveal itself. So you don't want to put a semicolon at the end here because then it allows us to chain other methods like this instead of having to put TL.to every time, which you could if you wanted to. This time we're going to change, we're going to use to instead of from. So it's going to take the values that we're going to specify from the selector here from text reveal, which is applied to, by the way, let's see, right here. So it's applied to this headline and also the subheadline or the description, whatever you want to call it. And the reason I chose this right here, text reveal, the same class name, is because I want to do a stagger animation, which means it will look for all instances of HTML elements in the DOM that have the class of text reveal, and it will sequence animation them, which means it's not going to animate them all at the same time. You'll see how that works in a second. So text reveal right here, we're going to say, now if you recall in text reveal up here, or wherever the hell it is, there it is. We put it the clip path, which means we hit it. Now, if I go back to Clippy and we do this, we reveal it, this value right here is what we're going to put inside of. You can copy this actually, just the polygon. Don't copy the clip path property right there. We can copy that. And what we say is if we want to specify CSS properties here in JavaScript, we have to do camel case. So we wouldn't be putting clip hyphen path, it won't work. We put clip path. So we omit the hyphen and then we capitalize the next letter after it. Kind of strange, but that's how it works. So clip path, we put it in the actual value for this one inside of quotes, just like that. All right, so we're gonna have some other properties with that though, but let's see what happens here. Notice how they both kind of just animate, just like it takes a while, right? So you'll see how we can make it faster as well. So other properties that we're gonna have is we're gonna put a comma after that property, and we're gonna make it say y0, and that's because in our CSS we took transform translate y, and we're moving it up 3 em units from its original position. So we want to make it go to y0, to its default position. We're also going to put in stagger on a 0.3 seconds. So the first one it finds, it'll go immediately. The second one it finds with text reveal applied to it in the DOM is going to happen 0.3 seconds afterwards. All right, and then we'll also change the duration quicker to 1 second instead of, actually, yeah, I don't think we even have to add duration 1. Well, anyways, at the end, if we want it to occur quicker than it would, because here's how it works by default. It'll run this animation, and then it waits for that animation to be done in order to run this animation. However, we can override that by closing this up, and in the third parameter of to or from, we can put in quotes, and then if we want it to occur quicker, we reduce the time. So we put negative equal, and then we'll say 2.9 seconds. Now, how did I know to put 2.9 seconds? That's because I already did this project and I was just looking at the timing of things. So you will have to, sit there and trial and error adjust the timings of everything here. So if you wanted to add more time, you just put plus equals. So now let's see what this looks like. It should look better and behave better. So let's refresh. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Very nice. I love it. All right, so next up, we're going to take that same text reveal, this right here, and we're going to move it up and kind of hide the, we'll use the clip path property again to hide it as it's moving up, and then when it gets to its final position at the top, because we're also going to make those 3 cards kind of push up, so it's going to push everything up. We'll make it reveal back with the clip path property. So this one, I'm just going to go ahead and paste this one in right here. So what this is doing, this next 2 element, taking that same property, clip path, this time we're hiding it just like it is default in the CSS. All right, and then we're taking y of negative 200 and pushing it up. Duration is just 0.2, so this one's real fast. And then delay is 0.5 from where it would start here. So let's just save that and see what that looks like. All right, there we go. The next one, we're gonna have a final, what do you call, a final animation for this part of that sequence for the text. This one reveals it again, just like up there, 2 lines above. Staggers 0.3, duration's 0.3, and delay is 0.5. So let's see what that looks like. All right, I thought it was cool. As you can see, you can have a lot of fun with this. All right, next up, let's get our SVG to reveal as well, which is that little arrow, which is kind of hard to see in the design anyways. So we have our SVG, and again, we just put in the same property. So clip path, this is revealing it, because right now it's hidden as well with this property in CSS. All right, so we're also take our Y value and move it negative 150 just to get our positioning correct. So we should see that right there. See how it kind of falls up? All right, I'll show it one more time. You'll see right here. Nice. All right, next up, we only have one more property. That's it, just to get everything to show up. So we'll say to local, and once again, local is this. So local is applied to each parent card container here. And we're gonna say, once again, we're gonna use clip path. So clip path here. We're gonna reset the Y to 0 because we are using transform Y here to position it lower, I believe. So Y0, and then also stagger, because there's 3 of them, we'll do it 0.3 seconds. That way they're not all coming in at the same time. We're also going to put opacity 1 and duration 1, and we're going to make this reveal or start 1.4 seconds sooner than what it would have otherwise. All right, let's save this and see what the final result looks like. Look at that, how it kind of just moves up. It makes it look like the whole design is moving up. It's very cool. Look at that. All right, one more time just for the fun of it. All right, very, very, very cool. All right, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed that. You learned something new about animations. Of course, make sure to visit DesignCourse.com for UI, UX education, and also DesignCourse.com/CSS if you want to learn more about this front-end development stuff that you just learned. All right, I will see you all very soon. Make sure to subscribe, and goodbye.